In music, sound is not the whole story. From the big pictures in vinyl records in the 1950s, the paper images in CD jewel cases, to the small icon you see on your streaming app, music listeners cannot escape the album cover. These images became so important that they are considered the ultimate visual statement of the album. Music covers are now a crucial part of an artist's branding and marketing, encapsulating into just one picture an artist's era full of music videos, live performances, and other pop culture moments. And of course, BTS knows this as well. You may be familiar with the cover art for their 2021 summer single Butter, which shows an animated design of butter in the shape of a heart. This is probably one of BTS's simplest cover arts ever, but it worked for this particular project. This image encapsulates the essence of a summer hit single. Nothing more, nothing less. It's simple, bright, fun, easy to remember, and even easy to associate to these other cover arts. The Butter remix featuring Megan Thee Stallion and the Butter Holiday remix, released for the holidays. You don't actually see butter in these two designs, but the melted heart represents BTS's butter. But of course, depending on the type of project BTS releases, they go for different design strategies even I, as a non-expert part of the general public, can recognize. BTS's album covers visually separate their discography into trilogies and eras. These butterflies and Chinese characters link these two albums. These lines link these three albums. And these maps link these two albums. As you can see, they do this almost entirely with graphic design, as opposed to photography. Instead of faces and bodies, BTS uses abstract designs and creative drawings. This type of smart and cool graphic design has worked great for BTS. They actually received their first Grammy nomination because of an album design. Love Yourself Tear was nominated for Best Packaging in 2019. However, I've always wondered what a BTS album cover that is not just graphic design may look like. And why do they choose to stay away from those covers? In K-pop, graphic covers are very common because member lineup changes are common. Also, at the beginning of their careers, the BTS members were unsure if they were even going to be able to last more than a year. So I understand why there were no members in the covers. But why continue with just graphic design after all these years? I was thinking that maybe 7 people all together in one little square box can be too much. And it can also be a little hard to put 7 people in album cover after album cover in creative ways. So I understand, but I still believe that photography in BTS album covers can be possible and even beneficial for their careers. There are many legendary album covers with graphic designs, but there are even more legendary album covers with photography. I think seeing faces or even silhouettes reminds people that there is life behind this album. These are artists with musical personalities that audiences can feel a connection to. I think we can notice this in some of BTS's solo projects. In Jack in the Box, J-Hope is an extravagant singer. In Hope on the Street, he is a street dancer. And in Killing It Girl, he is a seductive man. In Indigo, RM is an introspective poet, but in Right Place Wrong Person, he is an out-of-place overthinker. In Muse, Jimin is the muse, and in Golden, Jungkook is a hot pop star. I would say this even works with V's Layover. Audiences may assume that dog belongs to someone. The singer has to have a reason why he included that dog in this album cover, and that makes you know something personal about the artist. In all these cases, you notice a personality because the artist appear on the album cover in a particular way. Audiences get attached to that and even take it more seriously than graphic design. Don't get me wrong, I do love these album designs. The Youth Trilogy has some of my favorite album covers ever. But I thought it could be fun to attempt to reimagine these album covers by using some level of photography. At first, I was thinking of using any pictures of the BTS members that can fit the theme of the album. But I soon realized that this would be too easy because there are a lot of amazing magazine photo shoots that can easily become album covers. That wouldn't be a challenge at all. So I created rules for myself. Number 1, I can only use photographs part of the respective album promotions. These can be concept photos, pictures from the music videos, and behind-the-scenes content. Number 2, the colors, logos, and fonts I use have to be part of the album. I cannot create my own. Number 3, the cover I create has to have the same feeling or vibe of the original album cover. It cannot just be a pretty cover that has nothing to do with the songs of the album. Before I start, I want to give 2 quick disclaimers. First, I'll only do their group albums, part of their Korean discography, because they did use images with faces for their early Japanese releases. Second, I am not an expert in Photoshop, graphic design, photography, or any kind of editing. I just like making YouTube videos and thumbnails, but I don't really know theory. So these are ideas I created just for fun. During their first year, BTS released 3 albums we know today as the School Trilogy. The very first album, Too Cool for School, has a cover art that very clearly says BTS, but you can barely read the name of the album. For the second album, Oh Are You Late Too, they made the name of the album way more visible and the name of the group smaller. For the third album, School Love Affair, they made the name of the album even bigger and they included for the first time the names of the BTS members. Like I mentioned, these albums were part of a trilogy, all with the same theme. But the albums don't really make visual sense together. They look like random albums that have nothing to do with each other. Now, this makes sense when you remember that BTS didn't know if they were going to be a group beyond this first year. BTS's debut was a fluke, and they didn't know if they were actually going to continue beyond that first album that sold less than 1,000 copies in its debut week. So a design with just their name works for their debut project. And these 3 albums can be seen as a diverse discography if they had to disband after School Love Affair. I think the mismatching of the album covers part of this trilogy shows a key part of BTS's history, and I don't want to erase that by making them look like their other trilogies. So this is what I came up with. The design for BTS's debut album was the hardest one to create. I made multiple drafts and I didn't love any of them. With this cover, I have to present BTS as a hip-hop group with a fresh new take on 90s hip-hop and who have a bold message about the school system and dreams. I know this is not the best picture out there, but I like the idea of having a yellow school bus. I think it represents the album very well. Just as a reference, I took this random picture of a school bus and then I erased the words school bus and emergency door. In this section, I put the logo of Too Cool for School, but it looked very small and I wanted it to be bigger. So I did exactly that, and I did this effect of having the letters over this line of the bus. And then I added the BTS members. Now this would be the end design, but I like this idea in my mind way better, so I decided to start from zero again. As you can see in these 3 pictures, there are close-ups and the full body of someone else. And I realized that with the concept pictures, I also had a lot of BTS's full bodies and close-ups of their faces. I found these 2 that look kind of similar. I put yellow in the background with this black line. I thought that maybe I could add the members in this line, this way. There's one member and then I added another and another and another and another. Then I added the album logo and the BTS old logo. Then I did the opposite, and this one is so far my favorite, but this is still an album cover I'm not convinced by, until I found this picture. The way they were positioned reminded me a little bit of other popular album covers, so I decided to use this picture. And just in case, I added the yellow school bus design that took me hours to make, and then I added the BTS old logo. Now, I like the idea of this, but I don't like the quality of the picture, so I decided to start everything again. I took these pictures of BTS that I found and that I kind of liked, and I put it in a black background. I like the idea of having 4 school going the other way, so you can see the numbers 2 and 4 kind of like in a diagonal line. But I didn't love it, so I tried doing different things. I tried making the Too Cool for School logo bigger, and then making the BTS members bigger, and then I erased everything and tried putting some BTS members upside down, and I kind of like that. So then I added the Too Cool for School logo in the middle and the BTS Japanese logo in yellow in the middle and then in black. But then I thought they are using graffiti cans in the music video, so I added this black splash of color and I put the letters in white, and I made the BTS logo yellow again. But still, I felt like it was not convincing me 100%. I came across this picture that is not from the Too Cool for School era, but I like the idea of the members in this type of lines. I found these scans of a BTS old photo book on Facebook, and then I didn't like it, so I I put it like this, which is kind of basic, but sometimes basic is the way to go. I noticed that there were some lines here because these are just scans that a fan made and uploaded to Facebook. So I tried erasing them. So this is the end result of Too Cool for School. I know it's nothing too crazy, it's super basic, and this is definitely one of my least favorite designs that I created, but maybe it reflects the simplicity of the first album cover. The description of Oh Are You Late To says, lyrics that brutally lay open reality as it is delivered a bold admonition to a world that inflicts despair. Children are raised as studying machines without a chance to think about the future. So this album is about rebellion and school, and I must use white and red. This should be pretty easy because in all the concept pictures, the BTS members were white. While looking at more concept pictures, I came across this image of the BTS members walking in these white outfits. I thought that I could work with this, then I soon realized that this is not from the Oh Are You Late To era. This photo shoot is years after, and that would just be against the rules. So as much as I like this picture, I had to do something else. As I was looking for inspiration, I came across this picture. I really like the way these people were positioned in the picture, and I felt like BTS's concept pictures had a lot of potential because I could easily cut the picture right here and create this effect. For the picture in the middle, I immediately thought of this Yoongi concept photo. I found these pictures of Jimin, Namjoon, and Taeyeon, and I made them all look the same way. The only thing that was missing was the top of Namjoon's hat and a little bit of hair on Taeyeon's head. So I simply added those with Taeyeon's own hair, and this other side of the cap, I put it over here. Then I arranged the members like this. For the other three members, I used this picture of Jin, this picture of Jungkook, and this picture of J-Hope. J-Hope was missing the top of his head, so I added a little bit of J-Hope's own hair, but from another picture. Then I put the three BTS members to the other side. I'm not showing it, but I tried different angles, different pictures, and different arrangements, but this one is the one I liked best. The white to me was a little bit too white, especially since they are wearing white. So I changed the background to a warmer white. Then I added the Oh Are You Late To logo and the BTS Japanese logo in red letters. By the way, I'm also using this logo because they use this logo. I actually love the way this came out, but I thought maybe I could add just one tiny thing that makes it look more like a school. So I thought of the lines part of school's notebooks. So I added them like this. Now, maybe this is too much, but I personally love it. So this is the final design of Oh Are You Late To. The new album continues to focus on school and teens. As hinted by the title, A School Love Affair, the album's main theme, is the love that blossoms in the school. The colors for this one are dark green and pink. For the concept pictures, there's actually quite a lot of group pictures, but the individual pictures also look very good. It may be harder for me to edit the backgrounds out. As you can see, some of these photographies have the BTS members in weird angles, and I cannot put them together because one member would be sitting on a desk while another one is laying down on a wall and another one is resting next to a chair. So I decided to look for more pictures from this era online, and that's when I came across these pictures. Here, the BTS members are in front of a chalkboard. They all look at the camera and they are basically doing the exact same poses. When I looked at these pictures, I immediately thought of school yearbooks. So just for some inspiration, I looked online, and a lot of them had this type of drawings. And just like these drawings, these pictures had drawings. So I arranged the pictures like this, and what's awesome about this is that the BTS logo for this album has some sort of a school design. So it works perfectly with a yearbook design. But I didn't like this green background with the pink letters, so I thought of switching it up. I changed the background to pink, and then I added the pictures of the BTS members. I didn't love this type of green background. I wanted to make it stronger and maybe add my own drawings like in this type of yearbooks. So I took out the background and then I added the classical yearbook background and then the logos in green. I made the pictures bigger and I took the outlines off. All that was left was start doing the little cute drawings on the pictures. And this is the final result. This is my album cover for School Love Affair. In 2014, BTS released their first studio album, Dark and Wild. The album description says, BTS sings about love gone awry in Dark and Wild. They warn the girl who acts like she doesn't love them not to test their love anymore. For this cover, I have to use black and red, which are very easy colors to work with. The concept photos are very interesting and there are very good group pictures. But just in case, I also decided to look for some solo pictures on other websites. That's how I found this style of pictures for each member. So I selected some that had very good quality and I arranged them all in this white background. I put the Dark and Wild logo in the middle and then I rearranged the pictures once again so they make more sense. For example, there's a harsh line here and here, so it's just better to have them on the borders. I didn't know what to do with this space. I was thinking of adding a group picture, kind of like this one, but I was still unsure of what to do. So I decided to go back and take a look again at the individual concept photos. That's when I realized that we had a lot of beautiful headshots like this. So I took some of my favorites and tried to arrange them like this. I kept changing the order until it made sense. Now this background is black, but if you see the original album cover, there's some texture to this background. So instead of just having a black background, I added some texture. I could have left it like this, but I felt like it was missing something more rebellious. So I don't know why, but I just added some lines. Then I erased the part of the lines that are covering their faces, and this is the end result. This one is also a very simple design, but I feel like it's okay. It showcases all the eyeliner, which is very important to this era. Next, we have the Youth Trilogy, which has the Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 1 and the Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 2 with matching album covers. Then they released the Most Beautiful Moment in Life Young Forever, which has its own unique album cover. This is probably because this album compiles Part 1 and Part 2, so non-fans can either listen to Part 1 and Part 2 or just listen to the Young Forever compilation. After successfully concluding the School Trilogy, the new album begins to discuss youth. BTS has chosen the theme of the most beautiful moment in life, the start of one's young adulthood in which beauty coexists with uncertainty. The most beautiful moment in life Part 1 focuses on the uncertain future more than the glamour of youth. This album cover has to have a soft pink. So the first thing I did was scroll down to see the concept pictures, and this is the first picture that appears. As soon as I saw it, I didn't think of anything else. This was going to be the album cover. I positioned the picture here trying to make it as centered as possible, and then I decided to zoom in so it looks better. I wanted to add these little letters on the picture, and I looked for the font. And then I soon realized that this was the font, Nanom Myongjo Bold. It was an exact match, so I just added those. Then I added the pink logo in the middle, but it didn't convince me, especially with all the green. So I turned the logo back to white, and just as a test, I tried giving the background picture a pink filter. After looking at this, I could actually go to Photoshop and change the color of the grass. I really liked this idea, but then I thought of maybe making the logo of the album way bigger. Kind of like this. The name of the album is so big that it kind of clashes with these other letters. So I did that. I made the album logo way bigger and I put the little text on top of the logo. Then I put the picture of the BTS members inside this logo, and this is the final result. This is one of my favorites. As soon as I saw that first concept photo, I knew that I could make it work. So this is the end result. The Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 2 sings about the energy of youth barreling forward, embracing even the uncertainty and insecurity. Now beginning to taste the bitterness of grown-up life, they can easily sense that life isn't always beautiful. However, they continue to sprint forward, relying only on their two destitute legs and the fire on their hearts. This album cover has to be mostly soft blue, so it matches with the soft pink of Part 1. The lead single for this one is Run, and the description mentions sprinting forward forward and relying on their two destitute legs. So I want to focus on the running of everything. These kind of pictures remind me of very iconic album covers, which I believe can work perfectly fine, but I want to go with something different. In the second set of concept photos, there was this photo, and I immediately thought that this could work perfectly. I didn't even have to change the color of the background because there's a lot of blue already. The sky is blue and the ocean is blue. So I positioned the picture here, trying to make it as centered as possible. I added the original album cover. I already know the font of the text, which was very easy to find, and the logo is in the exact same placement. So this is basically how it will look. But of course, then I started thinking more and more. What if I make the logo bigger? The only thing that's interrupting is this part of the text, but I could just put it at the bottom. I even made the BTS members be on top of the logo, and I think it creates a very cool design. Then I started looking at this picture again, and I realized that I was barely showing the sea. And the description of the album is running, but with the uncertainty and insecurity of the future. So I decided to move the picture a little bit so it can show the rocks and the sea. But as you can see, Taeyeon cannot be seen over here. So I moved him over here. Another thing that was missing was more picture for these white sections at the top and at the bottom of the album cover. So the easy part was the sky. I just duplicated this part and put it over here. For the bottom of the picture, I duplicated and flipped the rock section. So this is the end result for the most beautiful moment in life, part 2. I think it matches perfectly with part 1, just like the original album covers. The Most Beautiful Moment in Life, Young Forever, is a special album that marks the conclusion of the epic journey of the series, containing the last stories told by young people who, despite an uncertain and insecure reality, continue to search forward. This era has some of my favorite concept pictures ever. I believe any of these pictures can create a beautiful album cover. There is a day version and a night version. For example, this can be an album cover. This one also looks pretty good, but I actually created this entire video because I've always believed that this picture could have been the album cover. It is absolutely beautiful. I think it really shows what it feels like to listen to this album. Their outfits and even their hair colors include the colors of the original album cover, which are blue, orange, yellow, green, and red. So I cropped the picture like this, and I simply added the Young Forever logo. It is in a diagonal way, just like the one on the album cover. I believe the album cover like this is perfect, but this chair is bothering me a little bit. The chair makes sense with everything else, but if the album cover is just a square, it can only show this. So I decided to take the chair out. I'm not very good at Photoshop and I didn't want to use AI, so I just did this. So this is the end result. Like I mentioned, I made this entire video because as soon as I discovered this picture, I immediately thought that this could have been the album cover. Wings is a standalone studio album that immediately became one of the most recognizable BTS projects, and You Never Walk Alone is an extension of Wings that focuses on the aesthetics of the song Spring Day. So much so that a lot of people don't associate the nostalgic but hopeful anthem Spring Day with the dark themes of Wings. These different album covers for the main album and the extension album create the illusion of separation, so I wanted to do the same with my edits of these album covers. Wings contains songs about boys who encounter temptation for the first time and must ponder and agonize in the face of it. So I did take a look at the concept photos, but when I think of Wings, I think of the music video for Blood, Sweat and Tears. So I tried to figure out how to put together so many iconic moments in one picture. So of course, I went to Pinterest and I found a lot of amazing fan art. For example, I found this one and this one. Both had some kind of collage styles, so I decided to do the same. I took a screenshots of some of my favorite moments from the Blood, Sweat and Tears music video, and then I tried to arrange them like in those fan arts. But I didn't love how this looked, and as much as I tried to rearrange the pictures, I didn't like it. So I decided to start from zero. I decided to go back to these concept pictures, but it was hard for me to figure out how to arrange them. That's when I remember this movie poster. Here there are a lot of people very close to each other. So I tried arranging the BTS pictures and I ended up with this, but something just didn't convince me. I tried changing the coloring and adding different filters, but it wasn't making a lot of sense to me. So then I went back to Pinterest to start everything from zero and I found this edit, which I thought was a very good idea. So I tried doing that, but including the 7 members there was too much. I tried doing the same but with different colors, but they didn't convince me much. And being completely honest, I didn't know how to properly edit those inside the circles, so I tried, but I couldn't do it. This was the moment when I look back at my other ideas and I realized that I really had no idea what to do with wings. So looking more and more, I discovered this picture. These are 6 photos, part of the Wings short films. I just needed to add one more and include the 7 BTS members in the pictures. So I added the Polaroid pictures kind of in a similar arrangement. Then I went back to this collage of pictures and I added those moments in the pictures. This is the best I could come up with. This was also one of the hardest album covers I had to edit because I had only a few ideas and none of them worked. So this is the best I can do, but I kind of still like it. It's very simple, but I guess it works with Wings. Like I mentioned before, You Never Walk Alone is an extension of Wings that feels like a whole new album because it doesn't focus on temptation at all. The album description says, "A message of comfort and hope to the youth of this generation." Before I even looked at the concept photos, I looked at the original album cover and I decided to do the obvious. There is an exact version of this picture, but with the BTS members sitting in this bus stop. So I just added it. The sky is not matching, so I added more of that dark blue sky. I noticed that the floor here was not matching, so I added some of the floor from here to this section. I didn't have to do anything else because the pictures really match each other. Just in case, I decided to look for other pictures to create alternative album covers. This one looks very good, but I really liked this picture and I simply added the You Never Walk Alone text in orange. I also changed the coloring just a tiny bit, so this would be a second alternative cover. But once again, I really like the editing I made for that first picture. It's so similar to the original that I think it works perfectly. So this is the end result. The BTS Love Yourself trilogy tells the story in 3 parts. All the covers form a design with one single line, representing flow of emotions and the continuation of one story. The Love Yourself Her covers have flowers symbolizing love and passion. The Love Yourself Tear covers have flower petals falling from the flowers, symbolizing sadness and parting. And the Love Yourself Answer covers have hearts which symbolize self-love and acceptance. At first, I wanted to create a unique cover for each album, but I soon realized that this was very difficult and it made way more sense to have these 3 covers in the exact same format. In order for you to understand what I mean, I'll show the cover I did first, which was Love Yourself Tear. Whereas the previously unveiled Love Yourself Her album expressed the heart-fluttering and tingling moments of love, Love Yourself Tear album embodies the pain of boys faced with parting. The theme and concept photos for this album were so obvious that this was one of the first designs I started working on. When I think of Love Yourself Tear concept photos, I immediately think of the pictures of BTS crying. That would be concept photo R. In these pictures, the tears are not as visible, but I know that out there are pictures of them actually crying. I still took a look at the other concept photos, but I was determined to use the crying concept photos. So I looked for every photo card or picture where each BTS member was clearly crying. These are the pictures I ended up choosing. After choosing those pictures, I came across this collage. Since this picture focuses so much on smiles, I thought that I could do the same but focusing on the eyes and tears. So I put the selected pictures in this order and I zoomed in a lot. In this space, I thought I could add the original album designs, but it was not convincing me. So just as a test, I decided to include 2 more pictures of BTS members. Of course, there would be 2 members 2 times. In this case, I took 2 pictures of Namjoon and 2 pictures of J-Hope. and I added a fresco filter. I inserted the original album design and made their faces less visible, while the design is more visible. Then I tried adding filters that match the design, but I felt like it was too much, so I made it all blue again. Then I replaced the duplicated members with the album name. I didn't like that the background was more gray than the black part of the pictures, so I made the background black, but the pictures looked too grainy, so I started editing again and I ended up liking this one. The last thing I wanted to do was making the tears a little bit more visible, so this is the end result. I think it's very simple, but I believe crying in an album cover can get a lot of people's attention, so it doesn't need any crazy designs. After finishing the editing of Love Yourself Tear, I started working on the album cover for Love Yourself Her. Love Yourself Her is an expression of the anxiety and elation of love. In the mini album Her that begins this new narrative, the image of boys in love for the first time are expressed in a refreshing and cheerful take that aims to talk about the topic of love while immersed in a coming-of-age tale. When I started looking at the concept photos, I had no idea about the format I was going to use. So I took this picture and tried figuring out what I could do with these empty spaces. Since they already added a border of clouds, I thought I could do the same. So I added random clouds I found, but it was a big space and I didn't like it. I tried looking for more pictures online and I found a couple of cute pictures, but I couldn't figure out what to actually do with them. I also thought about the DNA music video and how it has so much color. This moment, for example, I believe has a lot of potential, but the inspiration was just not coming to my mind. So I completely stopped working on this album cover and I tried to figure out something for Love Yourself Answer, until I realized that I already created a cover for Love Yourself Tear, and the original album covers part of this trilogy match each other. They have designs with the same format. So I figured that I should do the same with the other two albums part of this trilogy. So I replaced Love Yourself Tear with Love Yourself Answer. I created spaces for the pictures and I chose the concept photos from this dreamy photo shoot. I put those pictures like this, and then I made RM and J-Hope's faces bigger, like in the other pictures. Now they are all the same size. I tried different filters, and I ended up liking this one better. Then I remembered that for Love Yourself Tear, their faces were really zoomed in. So I made the faces for Love Yourself Her very big as well. And this is how Love Yourself Her turned out. Once again, it's very simple, but I like that it follows the same format. Love Yourself Her was about the elation of love. Love Yourself Tear was about heartbreak and pain. And Love Yourself Answer is the final piece of the puzzle. This series creates a narrative by linking the key songs in each album into a single theme, imparting the message that loving yourself is true love. Like I mentioned, when I couldn't figure out the album cover for Love Yourself Her, I started working on this cover. So I didn't know yet that I was going to do the same format. This is why I came up with these ideas first. The first concept photo is this iconic picture, but it has a lot of red instead of pink, which is the color I'm supposed to use. I realized that for Love Yourself Tear, the background is just one solid color. The same thing with Love Yourself Her. But Love Yourself Answer has a very specific gradient, and I could probably recreate it, but I am lazy, so I just blurred the picture a lot. I blurred it again and again until the white letters and lines can barely be seen. This would be my background. In the second set of concept photos, I found individual pictures, so I added a lot of circles in different sizes, and I added the 7 members. I repeated some pictures on the top and the bottom, and I used Jin's picture and Jungkook's picture again. I found this image that makes it look like wrinkled plastic bag, and I added some brightness, but it was still not convincing me so much. Then on Pinterest, I found this edit that was surprisingly kind of similar to my idea, so I tried duplicating the sparkles, but it doesn't look very good. So I decided to start from scratch and take a look at the photo cards. I really liked how in these photo cards, all the BTS members had the same pose next to a door frame. I knew that it was possible to work a design because there are so many examples online. So with this inspiration, I created some kind of doors and I put the BTS members over there. Then I tried closing up the doors a little bit more, but I just didn't like how any of this looked. So I tried putting the BTS members on the borders, and then I tried putting the name bigger instead of the heart. But I was just not convinced, which was crazy because it took me a long time to put this together. I was thinking of maybe just giving up with this one and show this design that I felt was too much. But then I figured out the Tear album cover and the Her album cover. These made my life way easier. I did the exact same format, but with the concept photos of Love Yourself Answer. Then I added the mist filter to them, and because Love Yourself Her and Love Yourself Tear have such extreme close-ups, I did the same with these pictures. So that would be the end result. Of course, this is more on the simple side, but I like that all the Love Yourself album covers match each other like the original ones.
I just wanna go, I just wanna fly, I just wanna give you all the voices till I die.
The next era is Map of the Soul, with Map of the Soul persona, which has a pink background and a white heart representing BTS's persona perceived by the world, and Map of the Soul 7, which has 7 drawings by the BTS members that form one big design representing 7 years of BTS. At first glance, these album designs don't look connected, but they do have the same font and map coordinates behind the main designs. Opening the Map of the Soul series with Persona, BTS talks about the joy in finding love. BTS weaves together what they genuinely felt both within themselves and the ever-widening world around them. Persona refers to one's identity in public, and this concept is most obvious in the version 2 of the concept photos. Here, the BTS members get ready in front of a mirror, so I was already leaning towards these pictures compared to the others. Of course, I took a look at version 1, version 3, and version 4, but I started working on my original idea, which was version 2. So this is the picture, which I feel looks a little bit more orange than pink. So I made it more pink, but I still have all of this space. So I duplicated and flipped the top of this picture, and I added it again and again. To hide this white part, I just added a pink square, and to hide this part, I added another pink square. The idea of this picture is that BTS is looking at themselves at a mirror. They are looking at their persona. So I wanted to create the illusion of a mirror. I blurred the picture, I added some drops of water, and then I added this figure. I added the same picture but without the blurring, and then I made it match the background. So I tried doing the same with other figures, and I felt that it was making a little bit more sense. I changed the album name so Persona is in very big letters, and then I separated each letter of Map of the Soul. And to make it even more clear, I blurred the background picture even more. So I don't know if it makes sense for anyone else who is not me, but this is kind of the idea. When you take a shower, the mirrors get very foggy. And to look at yourself, sometimes you clean the mirror with your hand and you create this effect in the mirror. That's what I was going for. But still, even if it's not super obvious, I really like the way this turned out. Just like with Wings, I struggle coming up with ideas for Map of the Soul 7. This is mostly because this album has 2 strong concepts. The description says, Map of the Soul 7 now turns inward to the shadow within, in a candid acknowledgement that it too is part of the self. This relates it to the themes of Persona. However, this is the second description. Map of the Soul 7 looks back on the 7 years of BTS since their debut as 7 members of one team. Of course, there is a connection between these 2 themes. BTS sings about the scars left by those hardships and how they are a part of their real selves. So I understand the concepts, but I don't know what to do with the concept photos. I really liked this picture, and I even thought that this is enough. But just to see how it would look, I tried different arrangements. I even tried making them bigger or putting them in a vertical position, but I couldn't come up with anything that I liked. While looking for some album inspirations, I found this album cover, which I thought was very cool. So I attempted to do the same. Instead of 5 members, I had to do 7 members. I also added the name of the album in completely different ways, but I really didn't like it and I didn't know how to make all of this food look good. So I decided to start a completely new design. And I was thinking if I should focus more on the 7 years of BTS instead of the shadow concept. So I took a lot of these pictures and I tried figuring out an arrangement for this. I think that this was kind of cool, but for some rare reason, I thought that I could create a 7 with these pieces, kind of like a puzzle. Of course, I was just being delusional until I found these 3 pictures, but I felt I had to keep trying. After many days, I remembered that the Black Swan music video has beautiful visuals. So I looked for the best picture of the ending pose. That was probably this performance at the James Corden show, but I really wanted to do a black background. So the white outfits would work better for the album cover. I actually found the picture shared by BTS's official account. I thought that it worked perfectly. I added some shadows and I tried playing around with the fonts and design. I thought that maybe the Black Swan style of 7 could work, but I felt that it was out of place. So I kept the original typography. So this is the end result. I am aware that for this one, I have cheated a little bit because they're supposed to be blue and even some yellow, but I couldn't figure out anything with blue. However, I still believe that this album creates a great contrast with Map of the Soul persona, and it shows both the shadow concept and the 7 years of BTS, because Black Swan explains BTS's thoughts and fears as artists. So I'm choosing this one. B was a standalone studio album released during the COVID pandemic and about quarantine. As a sense of helplessness looms in every corner of the world, BTS opens themselves up to express their mixed feelings about the situation. Fear and anxiety mingled with the determination to overcome all this. This worked as one of BTS's most personal projects. They included some lyrics of the song Life Goes On the cover in a font that simulates handwriting. This shows how this album worked as a diary written by BTS. The concept photos made my job easy because the members designed these sets according to their personalities. So I felt that was personal enough. I arranged all the pictures like this, but I made sure to separate the pictures with similar colors. So Jimin and RM were far away, as well as Jungkook and Suga. I also tried zooming in the pictures a little bit more, but I wanted this album cover to look very self-produced. The other pictures part of the photo shoot were taken by the BTS members themselves, and I think any of this could have worked perfectly. These ones are some of my favorites. And then I found these pictures. Some BTS members have books or magazines standing up, and the other members are sitting down. So I took the picture of the BTS members sitting down and I added the BTS members standing up behind the members sitting down. But I'm missing this whole entire section of the window. I tried finding similar windows, but this is the closest I could find. So I added those windows 2 times, and then I made them a little bit more transparent. I added the B font in big letters, but I felt that a lot was happening. So I took everything out and I made the windows way bigger. I added the BTS members and the B logo. Then I don't know what happened to me, but I made the windows even bigger. And since there's a border on these 3 sides, I created a border for the bottom as well. Then I took out the borders and replaced the background with bricks. I added shadows and the B logo in a very small size. Then I tried doing the same but making the BTS pictures bigger. I added shadows and the B logo. Then I decided to give that first design another try. So I added shadows and the B logo again. And honestly, this is the one I liked the most. I think this would have looked way better if I was able to find windows that are more similar to these ones, because these windows gave them a completely different look. But I still like this design. So this is the end result. Proof was an anthology album that closed the first chapter of BTS. The album description mostly explains the existing songs they decided to include, but they also wrote this: Proof is the core of BTS's history. The concept of this album is basically BTS, Bulletproof Boy Scouts. They are bulletproof. So there is this type of concept pictures, which are my favorites, but there are also these type of concept pictures, which I thought could look cooler in an album cover. So I remember that there were photo cards with this style of photo shoot, and I loved that they were all looking to the same side. So I tried putting all the pictures together just to have an idea. And since they were all looking to the right side, I immediately thought, this is my moment to do something like this iconic album cover. I also saw recreations with actual people instead of animated characters, so I thought this could totally work. So I added all the BTS members in squares and the Proof logo in another square. In the middle, I tried recreating the same background, and I also tried putting that square at the bottom and the Proof logo in the middle. Since there are a lot of lasers, I tried recreating the lasers in the picture with no BTS member, but I know it's probably not the best. Then I realized that the blue backgrounds for each picture are not that similar to each other. So I added a polar filter to all of the pictures, and I played with the contrast until the blue of the backgrounds looked a little bit more similar. Now, I already did squares for the Love Yourself trilogy, so I wanted to try to do something similar to this, but not the exact same squares I previously did. So I came up with this template, and I added the BTS members' pictures like this. Even while editing the video, I'm still trying to figure out if I like this one or this one better. But for now, I will choose this second one because I already have 4 album covers with squares. So this is the end result. So those were all my designs. Like I mentioned, I'm not knowledgeable about editing. So this video is just for fun, as well as a celebration of BTS's amazing album covers and photo shoots, because without those, I wouldn't be able to think about doing any of this. So tell me, what was your favorite design in the comments?